May 9th, 2026. Shane van Gisbergen turns 37 years old. His friends back home in New Zealand are texting him, giving him grief about getting old, questioning whether he still has it. His response? He walks out to Watkins Glen International and puts his hashtag 97 Trackhouse Racing Chevrolet on pole position in qualifying on his birthday. Then on May 10th, he gave himself an even bigger present. 29 seconds, 24 positions, 24 laps remaining. Shane van Gisbergen went from the back of the pack to the front of the field and won the 2026 Go Bowling at the Glen by 7.288 seconds. This is the full story of one of the most jaw-dropping comebacks NASCAR has ever witnessed. After qualifying, SVG was asked about turning 37 and whether age was catching up to him. His answer was direct. My mates were all giving me sister yesterday about how I'm getting too old for my birthday. You know, I don't feel old. I felt like that's the best I've driven. It was pretty cool. That mindset carried straight into Sunday's race. SVG did not come to Watkins Glen to finish respectably. He came to win. SVG started from pole position and controlled the opening segment immediately. He led the first 18 laps before short pitting at the end of Stage 1, handing the stage win to his Trackhouse Racing teammate Ross Chastain, who stayed out. Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney completed the top 3 at the stage break. SVG didn't flinch. He was already thinking 10 moves ahead. Stage 2 saw SVG and young Trackhouse rookie Connor Zilisch completely check out from the rest of the field, building a 5-second lead over Michael McDowell by lap 38. The race was playing out exactly as planned, until nature intervened. On lap 40, a gust of wind ripped a tent from the infield campground and sent it flying directly onto the racetrack. Caution! 6 cars stayed out, including McDowell, Daniel Suarez, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace, Riley Herbst, and John Hunter Nemechek. SVG pitted and restarted 7th. The restart was chaotic. Herbst spun in turn 1. Then, at the bus stop chicane, Chris Buescher and William Byron got together in a side-by-side battle, sending Byron into a spin. Ryan Blaney slammed into him. Todd Gilliland also got caught in the mess. Byron lost multiple laps in the process, effectively ending his day. Zilisch was forced onto the grass to avoid the spinning Byron, losing several positions himself. Through all of it, SVG cut back to the front and won Stage 2 over Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon, and Kyle Busch. Then came lap 60. Joey Logano's number 22 Ford shed its left front tire, sending debris across the track. Another caution, and this is where everything changed. When that lap 60 caution flew, the majority of the field made the same calculation. Pit for fresh tires and stretch to the end on fuel. Ty Gibbs, Connor Zilisch, and most of the lead lap cars dove down pit road. SVG stayed out. So did Tyler Reddick. Only 6 or 7 cars total remained on track. The moment SVG saw the field pit, he grabbed his radio and said exactly what he was thinking. Oh, fast! He was convinced his team had just made a catastrophic mistake. He believed the race had slipped through his fingers. Crew Chief Stephen Doran came back on the radio immediately. The message was clear. The drivers who pitted would be saving fuel and racing on degrading tires. SVG had track position, and when he eventually made his stop, he would have fresh rubber at the exact moment the field was at their most vulnerable. SVG accepted the plan, but the nerves did not disappear. Even Doran admitted the weight of the call. There were about 10 laps where I was a little nervous. Like, are we going to get there? But then they started to fade, having to save. Their tires were going away. With 15 to go, I felt pretty good about where we were at. But when he got back out there, we just told him, go like hell. You're going to have to pass all these guys. Down in the pit box, number 97 Jackman Marshall McFadden was just as anxious. Man, to be honest with you, when Steven made the call, as a pit crew guy, I'm like, man, was that the right decision? SVG extended his lead to over 6 seconds at the front before finally coming down pit road under green flag conditions on lap 76. It was a calculated sacrifice. He lost all of his track position in one move. When SVG rejoined the race, he was in 24th place. The gap to race leader Ty Gibbs was 29.2 seconds. Only 24 laps remained. In physical terms, Gibbs was rounding the Turn 5 carousel on the opposite side of the 2.45-mile Watkins-Glen layout as SVG completed Turn 1. The deficit was not just a number on a timing screen, it was a visual reality spread across the entire racetrack. What happened next was a masterclass that nobody in the garage fully saw coming, including SVG himself. He pushed out of the pits and immediately started setting his fastest lap times of the entire race on tires that were not brand new. The drivers ahead of him were managing fuel and watching their rubber die underneath them. SVG was on offense from the very first corner. At that point, I was worried. And then when I took off, I really pushed, and I think I did my fastest laps then. It was quite surprising. The tires were quite old. Then I started realizing we might have a chance. The communication between SVG and his spotter Josh Williams became the engine of the comeback. Early in the charge, the team was feeding him lap times, but SVG found that information wasn't actionable enough. He needed something simpler and more direct. He asked for exactly 2 numbers every single lap, delivered at the same point on the circuit, coming out of Turn 1. The gap to the leader. The laps remaining. That was it. They were kind of giving me lap times, which didn't mean much. So I asked for the gap and then how many laps to go out of Turn 1 every lap. Once Josh started giving me that info, it was awesome. Every lap, the gap shrank. SVG could feel the math shifting in his favor in real time. Every lap I knew sort of how much I was gaining and how to manage my tires versus how many laps I had. At first, I think it was 27 seconds, 20 laps. So I was a bit worried. Then the field ahead started coming back to him faster than expected. Gibbs and Zilish had pitted back on lap 61 and were now managing tires that had been on the car for over 30 laps. The pace they could carry was falling off dramatically. Then, their tires weren't going to get any newer once they fell off into the 75s and 76s. It was a pretty cool feeling. SVG carved through traffic relentlessly. 24th, 20th, 15th, 10th, picking off cars one by one. Some drivers moved over cleanly. Others made him work for every inch. I was just carving everyone up. Some people were nice and laying over, which is cool. The people that didn't, you had to put good moves on. That's the most fun. On lap 92, Connor Zilish, who had been running second, suffered a right front flat tire and was done. He finished 20th. One major threat eliminated. 1 lap later, on lap 93 of 100, SVG caught Ty Gibbs. He muscled past him cleanly and took the lead. From that moment, the race was over. He pulled away and crossed the finish line 7.288 seconds ahead of runner-up Michael McDowell. Gibbs finished 3rd, Chase Briscoe 4th, and series leader Tyler Reddick 5th. Then, especially when the gap started getting less seconds than how many laps to go, I sort of knew it was going to happen at that point. That's one of the best moments you can have as a driver. This win was not SVG alone. The call that crew chief Stephen Doran made on lap 60 to stay out, build a lead, and pit under green was one of the boldest strategic decisions of the 2026 season. Doran was clear about what he told SVG when he finally sent him out on that final stint. Especially at these tracks, he likes to be on offense. So we put him there. And Jackman Marshall McFadden, drenched in champagne in Victory Lane, summed up what the team witnessed. But if you're going to draw it up, I think that's the way to draw it up right there. To watch him just drive through the field, I'm talking about 18 spots. It was just beautiful to see, bro. That's beautiful to see. This was Shane Van Gisbergen's 7th career NASCAR Cup Series victory. Every single one of those wins come on a road course or street circuit. 7 wins, just 62 starts. The fastest any driver has reached that milestone since Dan Gurney did it at Riverside in January of 1968. He led 74 of 100 laps on the day. The next closest driver in laps led was Ty Gibbs with just 17. With this win, SVG won his 6th victory in his last 7 road course starts. A stretch that is not a hot streak, but a sustained dominance that the rest of the field has no current answer for. He now ties Chase Elliott for the most road course wins among active NASCAR Cup Series drivers. Also holds the record for the NASCAR Cup Series wins by any driver born outside the United States. Trackhouse Racing owner Justin Marks reflected on the performance from Victory Lane. He still surprises me, yes. And the reason is that after his maybe 3rd win on the road courses, I was like, all right, so competitive response is going to start creeping in here because everybody can see the data. Everybody can study what he's doing, but they have the gap on it, which is just truly remarkable. Runner-up Michael McDowell was just as direct in his assessment. There were moments where I thought, oh, maybe we can hang with SVG, like he was taking himself back from me, and he would take back off. A.J. Allmendinger, who was SVG's teammate in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Colleague Racing, offered the clearest technical explanation for what separates SVG from everyone else on road circuits. His background in Australian supercars gave him more road course laps than most NASCAR drivers will accumulate in a career, and that experience means he can push tires to their absolute limit and then manage them precisely once they begin to degrade. The Tiger Woods comparison has been made more than once. People tune into road courses now specifically to watch if anyone can beat him. So far, the answer is rarely. This was Trackhouse Racing's first Cup win of the 2026 season. After 11 races of struggling for pace across the board, this result delivered a critical lift. But Marks refused to let the team treat it as a turning point without follow-through. It's kind of like turning a Titanic. I mean, it's one race at a time. There's not going to be one event. This win today doesn't change anything. We've got to go to Dover next week, and we've got to maximize the downforce and the setup, and we've got to do the same at Charlotte, the same at Nashville. SVG's win moved him to 16th in the Cup Series standings, the final provisional playoff spot. Teammate Ross Chastain sits 19th, and rookie Connor Zilisch is 32nd after his race ended with a flat tire in the closing laps. McFadden said it best from the floor of Victory Lane. I just think it's a jump start. It's been some tough outings, but I think this will give us a little life, man. It's that jump start we needed. SVG celebrated his 37th birthday with pole position on Saturday. He celebrated the race on Sunday with a comeback that stretched 29.2 seconds into nothing across 18 laps at Watkins Glen International. 7 wins, 62 starts, all on road courses. Nobody has closed the gap. Unbelievable to win with 97. Thank you to Trackhouse. We worked very good in practice, and then qualifying was amazing. Good weeks, and then today, so what a race car. Then Steven made great calls. I wasn't sure how it was going to work. Then to run them down. Very special to do 2 in a row. Just stoked for these guys, you know, to execute every facet of our game. Speechless. This is so cool. Like, hit, subscribe, comment, share.